Hey everybody, welcome to another video. Today I'm going to be doing some crossover talk with some crossovers, but first I wanted to share a few new items that I got recently, that I just recently picked up. This one I just got today actually. Amazing Spider-Man number 63. This is one that I've just started picking up this series a little bit, the last few issues. So we're going to see how it goes. I haven't had a chance to read all of them yet. I only have maybe 4 or 5 issues. I know there's a lot of hype right now with the new suit. Not sure how I feel about it yet. I have a friend that calls these Tron lines, so they're kind of overdone just a little bit. But we'll see how it goes. If it's a good story, it's a good story. We'll see. So I've got that. I finally picked up my very first Berserker number 1. My local comic book store has been out of this since basically day one. They sold out immediately and I have not been able to get my hands on one. I finally got one through eBay. It's hard to find these at a decent price right now, but I managed to get one off eBay for a decent price, so there it is. Glad to have that one. And then today I also picked up Darkhawk, the 30th anniversary. This is a variant cover that I saw, so I grabbed this one. I understand they're supposed to be putting out some more Darkhawk stuff in the future, so we'll see how this one goes. Kind of a neat little... I remember when this first came out, actually. I did not get the first issue, but I do have issues 2 and 3 back when he first came out. So it had Hobgoblin in it. Hobgoblin is probably my favorite Spider-Man villain. So if it has Hobgoblin in it, I was pretty sure to get it. So those guys. Now those are older ones, of course, but this is the new one that I got. And now we're gonna get into the crossover stuff. Again, this is some new stuff that I recently got. If you watched my older video, you probably saw me open this one, Venom vs. Carnage number 1 from King in Black. I've been kind of out of comics just recently, getting back into it, so I have not followed up with any of the, Spider-Gwen or Gwenom or Gwenpool, any of that stuff. Gwen Stacy was dead back when I was reading comic books as a kid. But this is the first appearance of Mary Jane as Carnage, so I figured I'd check it out. And along with that, I also grabbed Venom vs. Carnage 2 and 3. So I kind of enjoyed the first one. We'll see how these other two go. And they're all part of the King in Black series. Which brings us to our crossover talk. King in Black, I know, is a big crossover event. I have not been keeping up with it. Like I said, I just recently got back into collecting, and I saw the King in Black stuff. I knew it was a crossover, but it was really hard for me to figure out where everything was, because a lot of these seem like, for instance, this is a recent one that I got, Ghost Rider. It's issue 1, King in Black, but there's kind of events that have already happened, and I guess these are supposed to be one-shots. Maybe someone can leave something in the comments and explain to me how these work, but I'm assuming these are just kind of one-shots. I've also got Black Knight, King in Black number 1, and then the one that really confused me was this one, Amazing Spider-Man, also King in Black number 1, but it doesn't seem to be part of this Amazing Spider-Man run, so I don't know like, where is this supposed to fall in the continuity? It's a little confusing. I'm no stranger to crossovers. We had a big crossover event when I was younger, and these things just like work their way into the regular titles of the actual runs themselves. They didn't have like one-shots like this, which I'm assuming that's what these are. But these are the only King in Black things that I've gotten. Again, this is a variant cover, which is also weird because neither of these two... I like the cover, but Deadpool and Venom, they're not even in the issue at all, so that's kind of weird as well. But yeah, maybe if there's an easy way to explain it. I know there's some sort of a guide. I haven't bothered looking online to see what any kind of reading order there is. When we were kids, there was a crossover event I'm about to tell you about that, you know, we didn't have the luxury of having online reading orders to get on and check out to see what books you were supposed to get and which ones were in what order. But that is the current crossover event. I know it's just finishing, it's just wrapping up. When I was a kid, 30 years ago, before King in Black, we had Inferno. And Inferno it wasn't the first crossover event that Marvel ever did. They did some smaller crossovers, but this was probably the first major crossover event that Marvel did that spanned multiple titles. And these, like I was saying earlier, you didn't have like one-offs. This was X-Men issue 240, so this just fell in with the regular X-Men run, and then the Inferno story kicked in. Now I believe it may have started the issue before this. I have 240, I have 241 on the X-Men runs, and then I also have 242. See if I can get this in here. Move these up. 242 and 243. This is not all of them. To give you an idea, the Inferno event was around, I think it started in 1988, it ran 1988, 1989, and it ran for approximately 39 issues to complete the story. So it was a huge, massive crossover event. It was basically a demonic invasion of New York City, and it affected multiple characters and storylines and plot lines. You had the Goblin Queen, major events going on with the Goblin Queen, Dark Child, spoiler alert, Hobgoblin turns into a demon, like an actual demon. Mr. Sinister is involved in all of this. There's demons from another dimension that come in and wreak havoc. You have lampposts coming alive, turning into creatures, all kinds of crazy stuff going on. To give you an idea of how big this was, it spanned several different titles, including X-Men, New Mutants, X-Factor, Excalibur, Avengers, Daredevil, all three runs of Spider-Man, Fantastic Four, Cloak and Dagger, Power Pack, and Exterminators. So this was a huge crossover event. It had some major implications. I need to go back and get some more of these that I missed out on. I don't think I'm going to get all 39 of them, but there's a few that I think I want to get. Now I talked about the Spider-Man titles and how there were multiple Spider-Man titles. In the 80s we had 3 different Spider-Man titles that were all running at the same time. We had The Amazing Spider-Man, which was the oldest. We had and that had just recently passed the 300 issue mark. We had Spectacular Spider-Man, which was the second oldest one, and that one was up in the 100, about 140 area of issues. And then the third one we had running was the newest one, The Web of Spider-Man, which was still in the 30s and 40s at the time, as far as issue count goes. Now, when I say it spanned all three runs, I mean it really spanned all 3 runs. This is a ongoing story. Spectacular Spider-Man 146. And this story directly goes into Web of Spider-Man issue 47. So as soon as this story ends, this is the next chapter of that story. So you're crossing titles, you're crossing runs here. And then this one goes into Amazing Spider-Man 312. And then from here, you go back to, I don't have actually the next one. I'm missing, this is all I have. So this is Web of Spider-Man 48, right? So let's see if I can explain this here. We'll do this, and then we'll do this. Okay. So the story arc starts here. Actually, there's one before it that starts in Amazing Spider-Man as well. But with the Hobgoblin, these are all Hobgoblin stories. The Hobgoblin shows up for the first time in this one. Not first time ever, just for this particular story arc. So you have the Hobgoblin story arc starts here, and then the next chapter is in Web of Spider-Man, and then the next chapter is in Amazing Spider-Man, and then the next chapter is the next Spectacular Spider-Man. So this is 146, so it'd be 147 would be your next chapter, and then it concludes here in well, it goes back to Web of Spider-Man 48, and then it'll jump back to whatever the Amazing Spider-Man 313 I think is the final one. It ends up being, I think, 6 issues long, just this particular story arc, just within the Spider-Man comics. But it crosses all three runs, so you know it kind of rotates with Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Spectacular Spider-Man, excuse me, Web of Spider-Man, and then back to Amazing Spider-Man again. So I need to get the rest of them. But that's kind of how crazy it was with Inferno. So this was one that was you kind of had to know what to look for on this one. This was definitely confusing. The good thing was that at the end of the issue, it would tell you which one you had to check out next. So you know, at the end of this one, it tells you the story continues in Web of Spider-Man 47. So you knew you had to go get that one. And then at the end of this one, it tells you story continues in Amazing Spider-Man 312. So then you knew you had to go get that one. So that's kind of how they did that. And then of course, you know, the X-Men one with the X-Men run, these were just all, you know, all in a row from the X-Men titles. So you would read that kind of in a row. You didn't really have a whole lot of jumping around with that one, at least. But it was a major crossover event. Now, one of the interesting things about this one, getting off the crossover part, this is part of the Todd McFarlane run on Spider-Man. Remember, he joined Amazing Spider-Man on issue 298, and this is issue 312. So still very much in the middle of the Todd McFarlane run. And I love his version of Hobgoblin here. I just love the way he draws Hobgoblin. But the really interesting thing is I recently went back and reread all 3 of these in a row. Well, all of these in a row. And we're just going to focus on these 3 since these are the 3 different runs. So we have Spectacular Spider-Man, Web of, and Amazing Spider-Man. And there's different artists working on each comic. Spectacular Spider-Man and Web of Spider-Man at this point in time were still very much traditional, old school art style as far as how the page layouts were, how everything was presented to you, how the characters were drawn. It was very, very traditional, kind of what we've been seeing for years. And then you go to Amazing Spider-Man by Mcfarland, and all of a sudden it's drastically different. I mean, from page 1, just from the layouts of how the panels are laid out, you've got all these splash pages, you've got just his entire drawing style is vastly different. It's very easy to see the differences going directly from these 2 comics into this comic. It's like night and day. So when us old guys talk about the impact that Todd McFarlane and some of these other younger artists had when he came over to Amazing Spider-Man, and how much of a impact it had on the comic industry and just on Spider-Man itself, it's not an exaggeration. You can really see it. Pick these up and read these back to back. And these are all 3 comics. Keep in mind, these all came out at the same time. You know, it's not like these were 10 years old when this one came out. No, these all came out, you know, within the same month or 2 of each other. So these were all current comics, and a lot of what's being done in this book is kind of taken for granted now because it's almost like industry standard nowadays. A lot of the techniques that are used here have become very, very standardized in what you see in modern comics. Back then, this was the standard. These two were the industry standard. This is what you got in every comic book. Every comic book looked like these. The artwork, the panel layouts, everything. This was completely different. And putting them all side by side like this and just reading from here to here to here is drastically different. Now, some people don't like Todd McFarlane's art style, and that's perfectly fine. Everybody's got their own preferences when it comes to artistic style. But you can't deny the impact that it had at that time, especially with just the layouts and the approach of how the characters were drawn, how some of the panels were drawn. I mean, some of these panels, you know, they're not even solid panels. There's a panel where Hobgoblin's cape is what's separating the panel above it from the panel below it, you know. So just little things like that, really interesting to see, and kind of in hindsight going back and looking at it. So pretty cool. Anyway, I think that's all I've got for today. Inferno crossover event, really interesting. Back from the like I said, the late 80s there. Huge crossover event. If you have a chance to check some of these issues out, I would suggest it for sure. But like I said, it's 39 issues, so getting into the whole shebang is kind of weird. But you know, you look for these little tags on it. But that was kind of the King in Black before King in Black, right? So that's all I've got for today. Thanks for watching so much. I'm going to be sure to get some more videos out soon. And collect what you love. Stay safe.